View from the Gutters, episode 118. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss JLA Avengers, and to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 101.14. Hey, it's episode 118. I'm Andrew Chard.
I'm Joe Preti.
I'm Tobiah Panshin.
Brant Gillihan-Eddy.
And I'm Cade Reynolds.
And we're back.
Once again.
Every week.
I never left. I don't know. I've been sitting here since the last episode.
I feel like I've been sitting here in the office since the last episode.
You have been.
I mostly have been, yeah. However, this week we will be... Do we have announcements? We have announcements. We have episode sponsors.
Yes, episode sponsors. Tony Cortero, Addison Appleby, Brian May. Thank you so much for your sponsorship.
Woo! Thanks you to all of our listeners.
For Truzies.
And we're talking about JLA Avengers.
By Kurt Busiek and George Perez.
Yep. And Toby, did you pitch this one?
I did.
Yes. So...
Why did I do such a thing?
Tell us why you brought this mindless drivel to it. No.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
as we all know, all comic books are.
Yeah. Why did you bring us this superhero book for children to our adult, important comic book roundtable podcast where we discuss literature comics?
Fun fact, though, Amazing Fantasy, I was looking this up before the show. Amazing Fantasy's issues 7 through 14 were actually called Amazing Adult Fantasy.
All right.
Which has a very different connotation to it.
And then it turned into Spider-Man comics.
If only
it did.
Still had the adult on there.
Yeah.
We would be living in a very different world.
Amazing Adult Fantasy starring Aunt May. However, Toby,
Yeah, I don't know which version that you guys read. I was reading the deluxe edition.
That's what I read,
which
too.
has
Hardcover.
reprints of articles from like trade magazines back in the day. So apparently the genesis of this book actually goes back to the early 80s when DC and Marvel did a series of crossovers. And there was supposed to be a JLA Avengers crossover at that point, which kind of faltered and sputtered and never got produced. And depending on who you listen to, this is because DC was fucking around and producing crap, or Jim Shooter is the devil. And
it's probably that one.
I kind of go back and forth on that, but apparently it never got produced until the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And you can actually kind of see aspects of kind of the original ideas that they were working with in this work. Which is funny because George Perez was originally contracted to work on that 80s version as well and drew something like 20 pages of it.
He then sold them to somebody famous.
Was it Mark Waid?
I feel like it was someone outside of comics.
Okay, I'm not...
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, something weird
right.
like that.
It was somebody like that.
Nicolas Cage.
I don't know.
But
some musician, I think. But
yeah, I mean, this comic is
something
really...
weird happened.
It kind of exists in this weird place because it's less about the specific characters that are in it and more about the teams that it stars as very abstract concepts.
Well, and kind of the universes, too.
Right. And I mean, I, for one, really enjoyed it. Like, I actually found this book a lot of fun. And it's very much and I hate to use this term, it's a fanboy comic. It is literally just all totally about, like, we got Marvel, we got DC, like, we're going to hit every single moment of comparison that fanboys have been arguing over for the last 50 years.
Not every single one.
Well, yeah.
Maybe not all of them.
The most important one, I think, got
of
left
them.
out.
So I think I should say something before people start arguing about this book, but I actually agree with Toby. I really liked this book, and I think the panel that made me like it the most was Batman sipping tea from one of Jarvis's mugs.
The moment that I really started to like this book was when the JLA is in the Avengers universe for the first time, and Superman's like, our universe goes up to 11.
Yeah.
And he punches Thor.
That's when Thor and Superman are fighting. Thor goes to fucking wail on him with Mjolnir, and Superman catches it, and Thor's like, nobody in the 9 realms, and Superman cuts him off, and it says, I guess in our universe, we go to 11, and then, like, tattoos him.
Yeah.
Literally gives him, like, no. Hits him in the head.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah, but like I found this book to be good fun. It was kind of confusing at times, having to deal with all of the random ass continuity shifts where people were just changing from page to page, and you really kind of had to pay attention to keep up with what the hell was actually going on.
And fake ass science.
Oh God, you gotta love fake ass science. That's the best kind of science.
Yeah, fake ass science is definitely. I can't remember the last time real science made. Lisa from Weird Science, which is definitely the best kind of science.
Well, that's what happens when lightning strikes a Barbie doll and you wear bras on your head.
It's true.
Also, computers.
What was her name?
Didn't Oingo Boingo release a song about that too?
Yeah, they did the theme.
Yeah.
Weird
Okay.
Weird Science.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember the actress's name?
Her name was Weird Science.
Oh, right. That was her name. You're fired.
Trying to help her.
Wasn't it Kelly something?
There were 2 different actresses that played.
Oh, that's what I needed.
Because one was for the movie and one was for the TV show.
Well, Vanessa Angel was in the TV show.
Well, I'm just saying there were 2 actresses.
That's true. That's true. But I'm talking about Kelly LeBron.
Of course you were. However, back to what Cade was saying.
About fake ass science?
I don't know. You were talking about
Liking the book.
liking the book.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know
Needing
what
to
was
get that out
happening.
before we started talking.
I don't remember what
Because
happened.
Batman sips tea out of a girly mug.
Yeah,
It's not a mug. It's
not
a
a girly.
teacup.
Yeah.
It's not a girly
And it's
teacup
fine
either. It's
Avengers
a regular
China.
teacup.
Avengers brand China, which is quite collectible, I'll have you know.
Do you think they're all monogrammed? Like every teacup is
Oh,
monogrammed,
God,
and like
please.
Clint has like 4 because
Actually, what I was wondering
them.
is do they nominate every year someone to do the China set? Like the First Lady always picks out China for the White House. Does every year it's like,
yeah.
all right, the raffle for this year is Hawkeye. It's your year for China again, and he's like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, Paisley, here we come.
Yeah, right?
I'm pretty sure it's just Janet Van Dyne every year.
Yeah.
No, it's probably
Like,
to
no,
be honest,
if you try and
Except
take
for
that
the
away
year
from
where
her,
Hank
she
Pym
will cut you.
And then Hank Pym backhands her and says, know your place, woman. I know how to pick fine China.
I'm pretty sure it's just
Poor
Jarvis.
guy. He did it once, and he's going to be labeled and abused.
It was
the
in
rest of
here.
his
He
life.
actually
It was
did
in
it more
here.
than once.
Yeah, I guess he did.
I went back at a certain point and was reading Kree Skrull War, and he does it in Kree Skrull War too.
Yeah.
Did you just Google how many times has Hank Pym beat up his wife?
No, but
No.
you could.
You could.
It was just a thing I noticed.
I would love if there was a workplace sign website that was like, it has been X number of days since Hank Pym slapped Janet Van Dyne. That would be so inappropriate,
Who was it?
but,
It was-
but also appropriate.
It was one of those guys. One of the guy that wrote that episode where he first hits her came out in the last year or so and was like, it was totally a
It was a
miscommunication
Yeah.
between him and the artist. Like, he wanted Hank to do something completely different,
Right.
And like the way he worded it or something.
Yeah.
I was just like,
No, we talked about this back on like episode 16.
yeah,
Yeah, this is old news, Joe.
hey, it's new to me.
You were
Because
on that
have
episode.
I have a really bad
I
memory.
just remembered it.
I'm smiling because I don't know who any of you fucking people are.
So, I mean, I really liked the book. I thought it hit all of the right notes for a JLA Avengers crossover, but I want to know what you guys
and
think
it was
about it.
it was great fan service. It's what people were shouting for 20 fucking years.
Yeah.
Well, and it's fan service in the way that, like, it's done right. Because fan service really annoys the shit out of me when it's not done right. But this, I really feel like everybody had the moments I wanted them to have. And also, I'll tell you something. That cover of issue 3 with Superman with the
issue
shield.
4.
It's
It's issue 4.
It is issue 4. You're correct.
Blah, blah, blah. Superman, Mjolnir, blah, blah, blah. But S.H.I.E.L.D.
It's awesome. You shut your mouth, Brant.
That happens in the book.
It does.
It's
but
cooler
no-
in the book than it is on the cover.
But the cover is cool because you're like, I mean, can you imagine walking into a comic book store and seeing that? And you're like, what the fuck is this noise? I mean, that's like.
I mean, I think I would read the title where it said JLA Avengers and then go,
Whatever.
crossover.
I just.
I get it.
I see.
Why do I come here every week to talk?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
I love the Hawkeye Green Arrow thing too. I thought that was very well done.
I actually liked the Quicksilver Flash thing.
Yeah, that was good
And
too.
I thought
Wanda, they have a whole museum to speedsters.
I like it when he's like, "I'm fastest. I'm finally the fastest."
yeah, well, I love the fact that they kind of acknowledge some of those, like, who would win? Well, it really depends kind of moments where they're like, well, in the JLA or in the DC universe, Flash has the Speed Force. There's no competition. Yeah. But when you go like back and forth, like they did, there's some actual like meat on that bone as far as the competition between the two of them.
Well,
Also,
And they're like, they're like, there really isn't a contest, so we're just going to kind of weigh the scale so that they're roughly even so we can have them duke it out.
Thor and Aquaman had the exact same beard.
Yeah.
And parts of it, Thor doesn't have a beard throughout this whole thing.
No,
does
he goes back and forth.
yeah, they all
the reality
shift in
shows.
time.
Yeah,
There's,
but
like,
there's
US
that one
agent
where
is
they're
in it
walking
for a
together, and
while,
it's
and-
like you don't know who's Thor except he has the hat.
Well, he's the guy who's dressed like Thor.
There is a point where somebody is doing something in the ship, and they're like, "Are you sure this ship can deal with the stresses?" And I saw the guy, and I'm like, "Oh, why is he asking Thor that?" And then the guy was, and the guy's like, "This is an Atlantean vessel," blah. And I was like, "Oh, that's Aquaman." I didn't recognize him.
forgot he was so angry looking back.
He wasn't so he wasn't talking like Aquaman. I'm not gonna do Aquaman. I might do Aquaman. I am Aquaman. This ship is an Atlantean vessel.
See, that's not going to be as funny to anybody else
It doesn't-
because
it was-
you haven't been doing that for 5 years off the or on the mic.
Yeah, no, it was funny to me, and that's all I care about.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's why we do this.
yeah, pretty much.
Chart's clear that
You came in here raring to go to complain about the book, so I want to hear what your objections are.
there was a time when George Perez was a very good artist. This is not that time.
No.
Wasn't that time the 80s in which this was supposed to take place?
Well, and quite frankly, it reeks of it to me.
Yeah,
And,
no, this is not.
and
This
that
is,
ultimately is what's disappointing about it for me on almost every level. So you guys talk about you're kind of celebrating the fact that it's like, well, like the Flash and the Quicksilver thing, like there's some meat on that bone because they jump back and forth. It's like, yes, they contrived completely, like overly contrived, conceited circumstances in every possible way to make it so it's like, well, really, these two are balanced. Captain America and Batman face one another, and it's balanced. Captain America is 5 times stronger than Batman!
That doesn't matter though, because
Yes, it
fucking
does.
Strength doesn't matter when it comes
that's
to bat
bullshit,
ears.
because Batman legitimately throws down with people like Killer Croc, who are on fucking Captain America's strength level.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Oh, really? According to what? Where are your numbers?
Okay, first of all, I bet if we go pull the official DC Universe handbook and the Marvel Universe handbook, I'm pretty sure that Killer Croc can't bench press 1 to 2 tons, which is what Captain America was rated at least through the 80s and 90s, and I'm pretty sure is rated there now. But regardless of that fact, it's still bullshit that Batman takes an entire hit from Killer Croc and fucking lives half the
They're
time.
comic books.
Yes,
of course
they are.
he fucking
But that's
does.
the thing that's bullshit about it, is that rather than actually take this on and be like, you know what, some of these people will actually take these other people down. It's like, well, Batman is trained in 75 martial arts, and he could, like that was the beginning for me of what it was like, this thing where it's like, okay, so you're not actually going to answer any of the fan service questions. You're just going to kind of tap dance around them, and you're going to do it with coloring
because they
that
can't
is
upset someone.
well, fuck that. The whole point of doing something like that is to upset everybody. Like, I mean, how many, that's, and I think that's maybe a different in the timing, right? Like, that's why it read as very 80s to me, right? Like, you have to collect sex artifacts from each of the 2 universes. It's a grand game. Like, it even ends with the fucking Beyond, or is it?
The Grandmaster.
The Grandmaster being like, I've never played in a game where everyone has won. It's like, fuck you. I didn't want to read 227 pages of of like, oh, he's fast. No, he's fast. Oh, he's strong. No, he's strong. Drawn by George Perez, who I'm sorry, but it's like, are their eyes going to pop out of their skull out of any fucking moment? And why are there only 4 colors and they're all garishly bright? Like, I can't tell what's fucking going on in the panels. The exposition reads like it's from 1975. And every single goddamn time these people throw down against each other, it's like, yeah, like, you know, I have almost the same thing that I had with Superman Unchained. It's like, wow, I'm looking at a gigantic turd, and occasionally I get this little nugget of thing where I'm like, that's kind of funny. Like Thor, you know, getting bitch slapped by Superman. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Not only is that guy worthy, but you're about to get owned.
Right.
But like those moments felt so hard to get to. And it's like, and I had to kind of check myself because I was like, oh right, this was the Avengers team that blew. Like, as far as the characterizations and the personalities of these Avengers, like,
yeah,
there's been a lot of work done in the 2000s to make the Avengers interesting again and like build up the personality and the interplay. But there was a really big time, as far as I'm concerned, in the 90s where it was like, wow, half the time this team's together, this is crap. Like, they've, you know, and I'm just like,
that actually is something that I wanted to talk about. But I want to respond to your point first before we get into that, which is, honestly, like, what do you expect? Like, this is a comic book produced by the 2 companies jointly. Like, they're not gonna let any any legitimate contest between these characters happen. Like, it's going to be something that is respectful to both, that is balanced.
No,
so
but it's not respectful to either. And this is my response. I'm gonna respond instead of Brant responding because I haven't gotten to talk yet. The problem with this is that it's not an interesting story. On top of that, it's mired in the fact that every 4 pages, Superman happens to go, oh, some of the cities from our planet are missing from this planet. And it's like, I don't care. I know they're different universes. I've been reading them my whole life. Like, you don't have to go, on this planet, some people aren't as strong as on the other planet. On this planet, there are mutants. On this one, Superman lives. This one has Metropolis. On this planet, Metropolis isn't there. What is Latveria? Who is that guy? Like, every page. And I'm like, when does the story start? Oh, it's done. Oh, 240 pages in, it's over. And it's not called JLA versus Avengers, and yet in the first issue, and then the subsequent next 2 issues, they're still fighting.
Yeah, they come up with an incredibly contrived reason for them to fight. It is incredibly 80s in that dimension.
So it's not only is it incredibly 80s, it's incredibly bad 80s because there were good comics in the 80s, and this isn't one of them.
Well, the thing is that this is remarkably like Crisis on Infinite Earths,
except not good.
Except this is
there
from
are parts of Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah,
I will agree with that, but it is a year-long event in which it was supposed to be an homage to the end of a universe. It meant something. It was supposed to be respectful to the people who would not get to read those characters anymore, and at the same time, a setup to a new universe. Right. This isn't that. This isn't Elseworlds. This is a spin-off. This should be fun. It should be exciting.
I thought it was fun for what it was.
I guess to the people that it was pandering to, it was great.
But I disagree. How do you not fucking pander to me, of all people? I mean, I'm a guy who sit here and says, I liked Man of Steel a lot.
Yeah.
I hope Zack Snyder makes more Superman movies.
And I think that,
I liked Man of Steel.
Well, no, but I mean, what I'm saying is that I'm very flexible about my standards.
I mean,
but I think Chard's got it exactly. It's like, how do you write a fan service thing and then choose to to have all this exposition to explain it to somebody who's never fucking read a comic book before?
No,
and it's
true.
like, why? Why would you do that?
Toby's right. This is very much like Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I've already read Crisis on Infinite Earths, so I don't need to read this. Like, what I wanted from this was I wanted Superman and Captain America to show up and be like, hey, you know what? We're out to protect people, and we're out for the good of mankind, and we want to make the world a better place. And instead, Captain America comes off like a little bitch through half of this, because he's like, they treat you guys with respect, and that's wrong. It's like, who cares, you're
totalitarians who make them worship you. The other thing about this, though, is that Marvel versus DC, which was, late 90s?
Yeah.
I felt like handled the one-on-one fight concept with more respect than this.
Oh,
now,
God,
didn't that one
not
actually
even
come
slightly.
first?
No, it did not.
It did come first, and it was based on votes.
It did
like, there was
first.
absolutely no regard given to who the characters were or what their abilities were. It was just, We're
Yeah.
matching up the characters. People vote
And I mean,
on
in
which
the-
one they want to win, and that's the person.
And
who
Well,
that's
I still
the
walked
thing,
away
like,
from that feeling like some of those matchups felt
you-
more true or honest
You
than some of these
can
did.
the whole problem, and the reason I think I like this book is because yes, for a book that came out in 2003, it reads like it came out in 1989. That's fine.
Not even
but
89.
I fucking
84.
there's not that much difference between the two. But
there is. Have you read The First Secret Wars?
not for years.
Yeah,
no.
Brant is nodding, and I am approving of his.
I mean, it
nodding.
reads
Yeah,
like
because
it reads.
86 was Crisis on Infinite Earths, 85 was Secret Wars. Like this wanted to be that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
I agree.
those already happened. Like, why are you so hell bent on trying to tell a story that's already been told? And I guess this is my question to DC for the last 10 years. But like, why are you so hell bent on telling stories that have already been told? This is so mired in its DC-ness that I wonder if any Marvel fan could even have a good time reading this, because it is so DC.
I am a Marvel fan, and I had a good time.
yeah, I do too.
and
I don't think you can't put Captain, like, for somebody like me who's a big Cap fan and a big Batman fan, that scene works because you can't fucking, it's like the whole thing about duking it out is like,
I don't have a problem with the fights.
It's not the way it works.
I have
right?
a problem that they fought. I don't have a problem that the way the fight ends up. Like, I disagree with Brant. I think that it was handled fine. I think that it's like, if you're going to have them fight, just fucking get it out of the way, because that's not the interesting part of the story. My problem with the mired in the DC-ness of it is it's like, oh, the shifting sands of time, and now you're Hal and not Kyle Rayner anymore, and oh, now you're old and parallaxy, and oh, the Quard, they went to Quard, and there's the crime syndicate, and then when they go to see Galactus, it's built exactly like the Anti-Monitors thing in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like, everything screams of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and the timelines,
It was
and everything.
specifically homaging those things. It was calling back to them, going, "Hey, do you remember this thing that you read when you were a kid that you were so excited about? Like,
Yeah.
you loved it so much. We're going to do it again, and we're going to do it cross-universe, and it's just going to be this big event that doesn't matter, with no characterization, just to put these characters on the page together." Like,
It feels like that.
it feels, yeah, it feels like that because it is that. Like,
Yeah, and I
didn't
guess-
expect anything more out of it. I expected nothing from it, and it gave that to me.
But I don't know that that's fair, because I expected it to
nothing
be
from
fun, and I guess it wasn't. So,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, it wasn't fun for you.
Expectations.
Well, yes, I think we're all
are-
clear that this is
Yes.
each of our own
Yes,
personal
it's
opinions.
I know that. I know it's an opinion, Joe. I understand that when words come out of my mouth and I don't fucking cite them, they're opinions. I know how it goddamn works. My problem is, like, it's not fair to go, like, oh, I didn't have any expectations and it met all of my no expectations. It's like, I wanted to still fucking enjoy myself. Like, is that really too much to ask from a comic book?
Chard, let's not kid ourselves. You are only ever 5 minutes away from citing your own opinions. All right?
That is
Andrew Chard,
inaccurate.
1997.
I just find it hilarious that I'm the guy going, yeah, it was a popcorn flick. I turned
Yeah,
my brain
no,
off,
this
and
is
I enjoyed
really
It
that.
wasn't a popcorn
Like, I
flick.
never
There was
do that.
so many goddamn words in here that I didn't have time to enjoy myself.
Right.
And the words
Busiek.
were unnecessary.
Well, yeah, and like that's the issue, right? Like, you talk about the difference in, like the quality.
You were like armored up for this
Yeah.
shit.
Well, so okay, I'm going to go back to this specifically because one of the things I do remember from Marvel DC, and I'm going to concede that I don't remember a lot, was Captain America and Batman threw down in that.
Yep.
And one of the central conceits of that fight was Batman was like, the only way I can win this is to cheat my way out of this fight. He actually even says either to Captain America or to himself, like he catches the shield, he throws it back. Captain America's like, I'm impressed by that, but I'm still going to fucking take you down. And Batman's like, well, if I keep him on the run, if I hide in the shadows, if I use all my tricks, I can fucking take him down. The central conceit that they can stand looking at each other and do like the weird like ninja martial arts master, like I can imagine, like I don't like what's the damn movie Hero, where they have the entire fight during the Chinese guitar playing thing, but that actually isn't a fight at all. It's just them staring at each other.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, no. If these characters go toe-to-toe, Batman's smart enough to know that he's not going to go toe-to-toe with a guy who, like, he doesn't even take Killer Croc on toe-to-toe. He dances, he weaves, he bobs, he throws fucking pieces of buildings at him, he puts explosives on his chest, he does all this shit. And so for them, it's like, you don't telegraph in your little ninja stare down that I've got 17 different things in my pocket that will then disable you. you have to either have that fight or not have that fight. So that's what it was the thing where it's like, well, we'll just hand wave it. They're physically comparable. They're not physically comparable. They're conceptually comparable. Like, I'm not saying that Batman loses that fight every time. I'm saying Batman doesn't stare down Captain America and be like, yeah. Like, I mean, he says you would win eventually. I'm pretty sure Batman, being as smart as he is, would be like, you're going to win this handily. Unless I do the 17 things that you would never know I'm telegraphing, because I'm not going to show you what's in my utility belt.
Yeah.
And so that's that. Like, I just want to make that clear.
Well, and I think the thing is, for me, is that the interesting thing for me for that particular instance, what's happening is that Superman, who is normally Mr. Peace and Love, like, let's understand our enemies, and I've written in defense of that quality. I think that's what makes him an outstanding character. And Batman, Mr. Let's beat the shit out of people, that, like, everybody's guilty of something, right? It's like, because one of the things I find really interesting about this is that there's a moment when Superman is apologizing to Captain America, and they're talking to each other, and they both go, the reason we were fucking being dicks is because we were both worried that what the other was saying was true, right? Cap is, in his heart of hearts, knows that no matter how hard he fights, people are going to die. There's always going to be some baddie that fucking blows up a building. And Superman lives in eternal fear of knowing that he has the power to enslave humanity. And so I found it very interesting that when the shit went down, it was Cap and Batman, Mr. fucking everybody's guilty of something, that was going, something's not right here, and we would be better served figuring it out than fighting each other.
I agree. That, to be honest, I found that to be like the most, not only Batman moment, but the most just rewarding moment of the whole thing. Is like, if anyone's going to go, we're being played, it's going to be Batman.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was such a strong moment. But I also feel like we've seen that a lot in DC. And I don't feel like there was anyone like adequate from Marvel that they could team him up with. Because I feel like Cap isn't that guy.
He's not necessarily his animal.
Go, Toby, go!
Sorry, I've got two responses to make quickly. So in the Marvel versus DC matchup between Captain America and Batman, specifically it goes down in Gotham City. And Batman goes like, I know this city like the back of my hand. I have tricks on every block.
Right.
Like, it is specifically the location in which the battle goes on that makes them equals.
Correct.
But this, in JLA Avengers, they're not saying Batman is in any way physically equal to Captain America. They spend like 2 seconds sizing each other up, and Batman goes, it's conceivable you could beat me, which is Batman fronting. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
He's trying to convince Captain America that it would be a fair, or not even a fair fight, but a vaguely equal fight.
Okay.
But he basically says, it would take you a long time, but we have more important things.
And also,
why don't you come with me and we'll figure out what's going on? Captain America goes, yes, sure, let's
And
do it.
Captain America doesn't actually know that Batman's not superpowered. So,
That's
like,
true.
Conceivably,
So, okay, I'll be fair.
And once you bring Cap away from this grandstanding with Superman, where Superman's pretty much like pointing out the one thing that Cap is sensitive about, and Cap is pointing out the one thing that Superman is sensitive about, like, I think that moment serves to show you that Cap isn't being mind controlled. He's not just a huge dick. He's like legitimately. Right. This is a legitimate jab that Superman is leveling at him.
So now that I managed to scream my brains out about the Captain America thing, I will now concede fully, in full audible range of all who are listening, that was mostly. I was frustrated in that moment because it took me so long to get there, and then I was reading that, and I'm just like, "Fuck that!" And that was basically the beginning of my how I felt about this book over and over again. And again, it's like that thing where it's like, and I've said this before, like I'm generally pretty loose about a lot of stuff, content, but I get really, really prickly once the art doesn't line up with the narrative, and if the narrative, like I've said before, I love Avengers Forever. It's got tons of weird shit. It's verbose as hell. It is a fan's comic book. It is not a just, hey little Jimmy, welcome to the Marvel universe. Read this book. And I think part of it is like, that's the thing, is like George Perez, one of the greatest, one of the great artists of the 80s. Kurt Busiek, incredibly capable, one of the legends of comics writing. At an era when both companies are actually producing some really stellar work, full-figured characterizations of both. Like, this is the Grant Morrison era JLA that basically rolls up in here, but it doesn't. They don't act like it. I mean, as far as the rough team composition and what their personalities are supposed to be.
Well, it is the same JLA. He's just not writing it anymore.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Though. It's like kind of
it's that same run,
right?
But I did want to get back to this point, which is the specific time period when this comes out, because this is right before Identity Crisis comes out, and it's right before Avengers Disassembled comes out.
Is it right before?
No. Avengers Disassembled happened in 2001.
No, that was 2004.
I thought Disassembled was 2004.
It was.
That seems too... But
I mean, double check.
I'm going to look it up because I thought it was earlier too.
Who's going to get to it first? Brant or Chard?
The way that Thor looks, the way that Iron Man looks, like the composition of the JLA, the way that those characters, what characterization that they have, like it's all coming at this moment right before there were a lot of big changes on both sides of the big two, and the lineups and the characterizations like really changed.
Yeah.
And you have people in here like Jack of Hearts, who's been dead since Disassembled.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to me to kind of look at this from the position of this is the last moment for this era of both of these universes, and they just happened to cross over at exactly that moment when they both started going in very different directions.
Yeah, and I think what I like about this book is I agree. It's the exposition is way too much, and it's definitely Kurt Busiek at his Busiek-ness. Like, I know he can write more concisely than this. I've read Astro City, which is a clinic in how to write a superhero comic. Like, there's a lot that doesn't need to be there, but I forgive those things because to me, this is a celebration of superheroes. And I think this came about at a time when a lot of people were starting to write superheroes that didn't really like them, that wanted to see them beat up and suffer and like be put through the shit. And like that, it has all these moments that I wanted from like the Infinity War and stuff when like Thanos had the cosmic cube and all this shit was happening. And he pretty much was like, I win, but I'm sad because Death will never love me. So I give up and everything's back to normal. It's just like that, like this, that moment where Barry is like, yeah, I'm just the distraction. And then Hawkeye's like, boom, gotcha. Like it justifies my love of superheroes. So I'm able to kind of forgive some of the soft spots because I agree. There's way too much exposition. It's stuff that we've seen before, but I think that last volume when they're all fighting and like Cap's calling the shots and you've got Superman with his shield and then he's banging on the thing with Mjolnir and like all these great moments and all these heroes, you're kind of you're getting what very few people get to have, which is a feasible reason why you can have this last big knockdown, drag out fight and actually give those characters the moments that you want to give them and then have them rebooted without having to be like, it was just a publicity stunt, you know, because it's like, there's like a legitimate reason why it would be rebooted. And
I totally agree. And like, I like the fact that they managed to get every Avenger basically, like onto the page. They got all the members of the JLA. I mean, and they got like these are two great teams, like teams of heroes who are mighty.
Mm-hmm. They are
put
mighty.
them together, and you get to see them working together for a moment, and you go, how much greater, how much more good could they do if these two universes were together? If they could cross over like this all the time, and you go, that would have been so cool. And I love that we got to see it for just a moment.
I think that it is, like Brant says, there are moments in here, and I don't know. I feel like some of them are worth digging through the mired.
Oh man, you're not going to tell me you don't love like She-Hulk being like when Wonder Woman's like, "Go and I'll cover you," and She-Hulk's like, "I don't think I'll stick around for this," and Hippolyta is like, "Yes, I'll be here too." Like I would read that comic book. I would read the shit out of that comic book.
Yeah. And if every character moment like felt true to the characters as I know them, maybe I would enjoy it more.
Oh, that's
but
fair.
The problem is I don't know these Avengers because these aren't the Avengers that I read. And I don't know this JLA because it's like I start off with JLA characters that I like, and then it's like, yeah, arbitrarily we just replaced the good JLA with Barry and Hal. and now you have to deal with Barry and Hal for the rest of the book.
Yeah,
and I'm
that
like,
was kind of
I really don't want them in there. And then they just, like, a lot of them feel out of character. When Cap starts talking, I'm like, man, is this what Cap was like?
Yeah, at times.
And it just, as someone who, I mean, I got back into reading comics 2006.
Yeah.
And
after Iron Man had already
I really
come out.
liked, though, when Hal...
it was probably roughly around that time. But I was reading, like, Disassembled. I was reading Infinite Crisis and stuff like that. Like, you know, they were collected already. And because I think Civil War was probably coming out while I was getting back into comics. And it just, like, things were different, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
that
feel
2
like on
years...
a certain level, like, this comic gives you a sense of what comics used to be like.
Yeah.
Back in the day without actually having to go back and read those comics.
Yeah, I think that
it's not always the best, but you get those moments like when Wonder Woman is like, oh my god, Hercules, the spoiler of Hippolyta. And you're like, well, that's not exactly how wham.
Yeah. And
it's like he's in the middle of a sentence and she just fucking decks him.
Yeah. I guess I just like...
I did really like the Barry Hal moment where Hal turns to Barry and is like, you know, Wally is a good kid. You could do... a lot worse. And Barry was like, well, that Kyle guy that we saw on the monitors doesn't look half bad either, Hal.
Yeah. And again...
But we had those
I don't
moments.
fucking care about Barry and Wally. Or Barry and
feel like
Hal
that was...
because, like, at this point, it's been 10 years they've been dead.
Yeah, but I like that. I like that moment because I felt like it was Kurt Busiek, like saying, "This is what."
This to me,
saying that this is okay.
I'll tell you what this feels like. This feels like fucking Convergence to me because it's like, hey, remember all those characters you don't fucking give a shit about anymore? Here they are. We're gonna shove it in your face with all of the trappings of the stuff that you weren't there to read. Because all this shit happened before you were alive.
But Barry
like,
and
it feels
Hal
like
never
that to
had
me.
that moment for the readers who did care about them. And now they do.
And I get it.
Even if it's not in continuity.
It feels like, can we not leave this era behind? Can we not leave 1986 behind? Please. Like, I'm 28 years old.
You can.
28 years old. I was born in 1986. I don't care that you guys were reading comics, and this is just a me as my generation, but I don't want to read the comics from before I was born. If I wanted to, I could go back and read them. They still exist.
Yes,
I want to read modern comics. And this feels like a 10-year step backwards.
There's a whole world there that was there before, way before any of us were reading comics, and that world has bearing on this world in some way.
But
you don't have Wally West without Barry. It doesn't matter if you don't care about Barry Allen.
I agree.
Without Barry Allen,
but
you don't have Wally West.
Moving forward is important.
That's not. I mean.
According to the whole fucking modern age run of the Flash, where the whole first 100 issues are Wally dealing with.
So yeah, I mean that matters in this comic book, but the theory is none of that matters.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like,
yeah, I guess nothing's in continuity anymore.
The thing is, what I'm seeing with DC right now is they are so firmly like. One foot is very firmly planted in 1986, and they're like, these are characters we care about. And another foot is firmly planted in the modern era, and we're like, we're going to move forward. And it's going to tear the company apart.
Well, it's been said that when you step with one foot in yesterday and the other foot in tomorrow, you piss all over today.
Right. And so, like, I just...
No, that's good.
I've never heard that, but that is so true.
I think that it is doing a massive disservice to that company because comics have come so far since 1986 that we can tell new stories about new people and new interesting situations. And I get it. This is a event story side. This is a Elseworlds side comic.
Yeah.
But it felt... I mean, it was not pandering to me in any way. But I could imagine how it was pandering to other people. And I just read it, and I was like, this is stuff I've already read before.
Yeah.
And the other stuff was better.
Which is hilarious because you say you don't care about comics that were written before you were born.
I mean, it doesn't mean I haven't read them. I'm tired of them.
I'm just saying that it's funny that you say that after you just literally said, I don't want to read comics that were written before I was born.
You don't.
I'm just saying.
I don't
It's a
want to
funny
read.
thing to say.
I know
Why?
I've said this before,
Why is
I'll
that
say it
funny?
again.
Because it's like...
You're not going to get it now.
Go ahead.
Give him
Go
a
ahead.
minute.
No, I mean, like,
I have
this
no
is,
serious
like,
response to this.
legitimately, it feels old-fashioned, but not in a good way. If you like, the color is bad,
So
the
Crisis
art
on
is
Infinite
bad,
Earths
the
was
writing is
old-fashioned in a
bad.
good way.
No, Crisis on Infinite Earths was 1986 personified because it was fucking written in 1986.
Yeah.
This is
Some
bad
of
art.
This was.
No, it was written in 2004.
Well, but that's no excuse to be like, well, we dusted off the 1986 script parts and just left them
no, that's-
inside.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, yeah. Like, this thing was... It's...
But I feel like this was written and drawn for that crowd.
Okay, great. Basically, it should have a big stamp on it that's like, if you didn't read comics back then don't read this.
It is astounding to me how I can 100% agree with you and 100% disagree with you at the
You
same time.
say that at least once a month.
That's
Yeah,
not
I know.
true.
I keep saying it, and it keeps being true.
I don't know.
You're
I
a
mean,
miracle of science, Andy.
It's just
I don't
astounding
know.
to me that Chard doesn't work himself into such a lather every day that his head explodes.
that amazes me too.
Because, like, seriously, like, sometimes, I mean, I don't think we've approached the Cars rant yet, but
No.
I mean, that was pretty good.
I
Or
just,
the
was a full
Superman
head of
versus
steam.
the Hulk.
yeah, right. That's just to get Joe mad.
That was the best. Kirby probably doesn't have it anymore. That was great. We were like out and out screaming at each other.
I was trying
Hulk
to make
versus
Joe
Superman.
as mad as I possibly could.
Well, Superman wins that fight every time.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just
Superman
basically.
does win that fight, but
And not just because the audience voted for it, even though they did.
but that's the right choice.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Flight is tactically like.
Well, intellect is tactically better
Well,
than
yeah,
cunning.
but some people are like, "Oh, well, what about Smart Hulk?" And I'm like, "No, Flight wins.
Yeah, that Hulk doesn't exist.
That Hulk doesn't exist."
I
Doc
don't-
Savage.
I
or
don't-
Doc Green.
Doc Green.
Doc Green. I don't adhere to that
Joe
bullshit.
Fix It.
Well, Joe Fixit's not very smart. He's just cunning.
Yeah, he was
He's also
like
not
a-
as strong.
Filled with low cunning.
Yeah,
Medium cunning.
I don't know. There are parts of this I like, but when you told me it was from 2004, it basically just like destroyed anything I could possibly get out of this, and I was just like,
2003. It's from 2003.
but I mean, it is, I guess, and even in those like 4 years from like 2003 to 2000, I don't know, past 5 a little bit, when like Civil War and stuff was coming out, and 1 year later it happened, and 52 it happened.
2007.
2007, yeah, about then, like, a shit ton had changed in comics.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, this came out after the first wave of Ultimate comics came out.
Yeah.
Like, Ultimate Spider-Man was already in the 30s, 40s.
Yeah, because
At the
that was
time
one
that
of the
this came
first
out.
that was
books I started
2001.
Like,
reading.
it does not feel like part of any... It's like, it feels like it's from the 1980s that never died.
Well, and it does what Brant said. It does feel like that. It feels like Kurt was like, "Oh, we're gonna do it, all right," and then like went upstairs to his writing room and opened up this big creaky trunk and took a manuscript out of his trunk and blew the dust off and was like, "JLA Avengers, baby," because it does feel like that.
Yeah, and I guess
and it's
that-
especially frustrating knowing it would be one thing if he didn't write anything after like 95, but like Astro City is great.
Astro City came out before this.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it's like
How does that not make you want to stab people?
mean,
like,
that's-
this book
Avengers
is
Forever
not
came out before
acceptable.
this.
The existence of Astro
Yeah, but
City
Avengers
makes me wanna
Forever
stab people all
sound
the
tone,
time.
I think, is much more like this.
I
than it
think
is
that
like
I think
Astro
that I
City.
think that for all the crazy bullshit that happens in Avengers Forever, it's that story still feels more cohesive than this one.
You're just like Kang a lot.
Well, I won't deny my Kang love, but but here's the thing: is that I guess that's the caveat. Like, I'm not as vehement about 1986 comics as Chard is. I like them.
Let's move on. Like,
No,
that's
no,
all
no,
I'm
no.
saying. And
No.
it's just because
No,
I'm
no, no, I
especially
understand.
cranky about Convergence right now that
Right.
half the books are from pre-Crisis on Infinite
Oh,
Earths.
that's
and I'm like,
fair.
there is no one alive today reading comics that was alive then
well,
reading
and
them.
that's and
Fight me.
Well,
Like,
just
just fight me.
But even if there is,
I mean, it's
like,
clearly not
DC
true, but okay.
sales are tanking through the floor because
Oh,
everyone's just like, why should
absolutely.
I invest in this?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I have no. There's like even the connection that I think readership has to storytelling and what it expects. Just like the American television watchers have a different expectation of how TV narrative is constructed.
Yeah.
Like, but I guess. If I had known, I guess that was part of it. My issue is that, like, I knew this was a book from 2003,
Right.
so I was expecting a book from 2003. I guess if somebody handed it to me and said, if it was called 1986, JLA Avengers.
Oh, yeah.
I probably would have been on board in a lot of a bigger way, but like the framing.
I have different criticisms, which is like we literally read this 4 months ago
4 minutes
with
ago.
Fucking Crisis on Infinite Earths. Can you not come up with a new idea?
I've read this before, and I was shocked at how stilted some of the dialogue is. Like, it's funny how my overwhelming enjoyment of it kind of
for me. I think you just
that.
kind of like got me the final piece of this thought that I had. If you finally get the opportunity to make like this seminal fan service, crossover event, don't you invest time and energy to make sure the writing is polished? The like, no matter how weirdly I'm saying that even if you kind of just be like, it's the Beyonder in the game, like even if you're just kind of like, that's all good, pulpy, old fashioned fun, you still would be like, let's make sure our digital coloring is done well. Let's make sure our dialogue is snappy and tight. Let's make sure that the exposition is relevant and not opaque. Like, there are technical issues I have with this book, even knowing what its objective is, and part of it is because I would expect that at the point that you get two of the the two greatest comic companies to ever exist with some of the most influential properties across God's green earth, that they would say, let's make something of quantitative quality. And I feel like I got a book that I'm like, I don't feel like that level of investment was put into it.
I feel like...
It feels like one of those movies that's been in Hollywood for 20 years and has had 10 script revisions.
Yeah.
And they just are like, let's just push it out the door because it's had 10 scripts and 7 directors and 13 leading cast members,
And worse than that, it feels like they left in all the footage they shot of the original film, and they were like, well, everything has to look this crappy.
I have to imagine that at a certain point, like, the executives had meddled with it all that they could, and they're like, okay, we're going to put it out the door because it's done. Like, we're not going to be able to fix it. Like, the only way to fix it would be to completely start over.
Yes.
And nobody has the heart to do that because it would mean going back to square one and fighting over it for another 20 years.
And then maybe that means that it should never have happened.
And I'm kind of...
Some of this, I wonder, what if... Okay, we talk a lot about editorial oversight.
Sure.
What if because they had 2 companies involved in this, that they couldn't really do that? Like, they would take it to somebody and they would say no. Or like, no, I want this. But then you take it to the other company and they say, no, I want this, and nobody can make up their mind.
I'm sure that is exactly.
Oh my God!
I'm sure that would have affected certain points of the situation. Like I was saying, the Flash and Quicksilver example. I'm sure there was strong editorial mandate to be like, no character can seem at any time to be distinctly better than another past a certain point. But that doesn't change the fact that it's like, hey, George, clean your pencils up. Maybe make the eyes smaller. And nobody was sitting there being like, that looks great. They're probably just like, okay, George.
There are guys in modern comics who have written for both companies,
right,
and would treat these characters with a massive amount of reverence and respect,
right,
that I have no doubt that someone could have told an interesting story with those characters. Unfortunately, it was not this one. And I feel like the art on top of it is like, you had guys at Marvel and DC that could wipe the floor with this art. Like, there were so many better writers and artists available to take this task on. Right. And it kind of feels like they were like, hey, Kurt, you wrote a really cool story for Marvel. George, you drew like one of the biggest books for DC. You guys go off by yourself. You guys write a story, and we'll put it out. It kind of like, to me, it almost feels like there was no editorial insight into this.
I almost feel like the pencils would be better. I'd almost be curious to see this pencils only, not colored. Because I feel like part of it may be the coloring.
Like the coloring is bad.
The coloring is funky,
and I feel like, but this
the
color is clearly
one of the things that makes me feel like this is supposed to be the 80s.
Yeah, but the thing is that if you're going to do that, then actually you can either digitally or conventionally make it for color.
Yeah,
like it was in the 80s, and that would make it feel more authentic to that time period.
Absolutely.
But this is clearly digitally done, and I'm looking at some of as Toby's flipping through it, I'm noticing that there's light and shadow added as part of the coloring process that I'm like, I wonder if George's pencils wouldn't have been so bad if somebody wasn't over top, like putting this kind of extreme digital overlay on it.
I don't have a big problem with the art in this. I think the coloring is funky.
They have the pencils in the back of the collector's edition, and I just handed to Brant.
Yeah, this looks like way better.
I found it.
Like seriously, like so these people's eyes don't look like they're bugging out of their head in quite the same way.
Is the updated script in there too?
Let me just reach into my magic hat of the better version of this.
I don't. You know what? It's not a big. None of it is a deal breaker for me. Like I've read so many worse things.
Yeah, like honestly, I feel like it's a miracle that this exists at all.
I mean, I'm not saying that as a justification.
Okay,
I'm saying that this, and we say this all along with Toby saying, I don't know how I can agree with you and disagree with you. One of the things we say is it's all about what you're willing to forgive. I forgive this for the things that are weak because it has moments that I like. It has moments that make me want to stand up and cheer. I don't care that they're moments I've seen before. I'm a simple motherfucker. I want to cheer for the good guys against the bad guys, man. Like, and you know what? I know that we're living in an age where like people have discovered that villains can be really complex, and like you can look at a villain and be like, well, that's a villainous. They do bad things, but like I can understand why, and then that makes them a better villain because you can relate to them. And heroes are flawed, and like it's not black and white. And I understand that like we live in an age where comic books are doing a lot of that shit. But like in my heart of hearts, I don't give a fuck. There's a 15-year-old in me that just wants to see the good guys kick some ass. Yeah, and I don't care if it's in a way I've seen it before.
I mean, I get it. I get where you're coming from. And I feel like that's a great argument for nostalgia goggles because the art is amateurish on this and the writing, I've read better fan fictions. Okay, like this is just... I wish I could agree with you, Joe, but at no point am I just like, yeah, Superman's on a page. Because Superman's on lots of pages. Like, he's on lots of pages of lots of comics. Like, that's not good enough.
Superman.
I know that this is absurd coming from me. I feel like you're being a little bit overly critical.
Really?
Oh my god! The apocalypse is upon us.
These are the two biggest comic book companies in North America.
And you thought, this kind of brings me to my point. This is the two biggest comic book companies in America. On the eve of them getting ready to launch these huge pushes towards a different type of storytelling, and you thought they were going to do something innovative, unique, and groundbreaking? That's fucking ridiculous. They were going to do something that were going to make people want to buy comic books.
They were going to make the safest, most
fucking mundane thing ever.
And that's what I'm saying.
But they didn't make that choice. They wrote a book in a way that wasn't selling comic books anymore. They had changed what they were doing by 2003 to sell comic books.
Yeah.
So they wrote something that isn't like that. Like I'm looking at this kind of denouement moment, right? When they're at the body of, is it Game Master?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is literally one page.
Or no, Grandmaster.
Grandmaster, thank you. Used it to bind universes together. Trapped Krona at a juncture point between them. I gambled. Krona would not destroy universes if his fate tied to them as well. But universes fundamentally incompatible. Natures too different. Some of you affected so strongly, attuned to your true realities. Sensing changes, making you edgy, uneasy. Memories fighting to surface, strain, cause disruptions. Yes, universes overloading one another, each complete unto itself, but forced together, building to dangerous critical mass. And it is Krona making it happen. Worse, Krona is accelerating the process. He stole knowledge from Galactus, knows Galactus survived Big Bang. He plans to repeat process. He will bring worlds together, let them annihilate each other, causing new Big Bang, one he can experience if he survives, learns its secrets. Unfortunately, Krona only too willing to risk all to learn truth. Always has been. That does not include any of the word bubbles in 9 panels.
Holy shit. That's insane.
I just wasn't written by Chris Claremont.
Sometimes
that's insane.
Sometimes I feel like I read different books than you guys read when we get to the episode.
No,
but this is. How did you guys hate Crisis on Infinite Earths and then enjoy this?
I love Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah. Oh my god.
What you're talking about?
You guys.
But I also grew up in an era when comics were incredibly verbose. Like I'm just used to it.
This isn't any worse than Beta Ray Bill.
I guess, and that's the thing is like that's the nostalgia blindness that I feel like is when yes, I also grew up in an era when the NES every game was fucking impossible, but I realized that that's not good. Like I understand that that was a negative. Like yes, I'm used to it, but that doesn't make it okay. And that's I guess my problem is this feels like old comics, but there's a reason we don't write comics like that anymore.
Yeah, but there are some people who go back and make NES-style games that are like NES hard.
But
they're still better.
They cheat. They cheat the system. Look at games like Shovel Knight. It has fucking checkpoints. Checkpoints hadn't even been invented in the NES.
Super Meat Boy. I mean,
yeah, which saves your progress at the end of every level.
There's always that tilt back to nostalgic practice, but there's always kind of modern convention. That's the thing that's just confusing to me about this book, is that it's just kind of like, at this point, we know that Kurt Busiek knows that he can show, not tell, some of this stuff. Like, that's the power of the medium that I think got its eye. Like, and it took 30 years to really iron that shit out, and they're still ironing it out. And it's funny because, of course, we're swinging back the other way, right? And now you see the return of word bubbles in the last 4 or 5 years, or thought bubbles.
Yeah.
But now they're being used in a slightly different way to convey new information as opposed to reiterate same information, which is what they were used to do in the 60s and 70s. I think that there's always that going to be that, like, playing with things and going back and moving forward. But what's just so shocking to me is it's late. The panels are laid out in a very traditional way. Like, the art feels really jammed together. And it's like, even George Perez, I know, over his career became capable of modern sensibilities in how he creates his art. I mean, he still does stuff today, or
I really like his stuff on Brave and the Bold with Mark Waid.
Did he not also draw Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Yeah, he did.
Which looks fucking way better than this.
Well,
I mean, and some of that might be how much of his skill or technical precision has he lost to age or things like that. But that's the thing, is that artists learn how to accommodate that stuff, but Kurt Busiek knows he doesn't have to exposit this much.
Well, that's the thing. I'll be honest. I still enjoyed this book for the most part, but yeah, it's just.
And I am by no means arguing that this is a perfect book. It's not even a great book, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cop Out was a misunderstood masterpiece.
Actually,
I also loved Hudson Hawk, though, so
I will never criticize someone for liking anything that they like for no reason. I'm just saying, like...
Oh, I will.
Which is ridiculous. But, like... Okay, also, when I said, didn't George Perez also draw Crisis on Infinite Earths, what I meant was Infinite Crisis, which came out 2 years later, which still looks considerably better.
Did he draw Infinite
Yes,
Crisis?
he did.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
So why? There's no fucking excuse for this.
Well, but like I said, the pencils look way better. So I feel like whoever Tom,
great,
blah,
yeah,
so
who did the color
editorial fucking ruined it.
But that doesn't change the writing
problem
part
is
and the layout part.
I will never criticize you for liking something outright, regardless of whether the interior meat of it like warrants liking it or not. I guess is the best way I can say it. It's like, I like a lot of stuff that I realize is not well made.
Big Trouble in Little China.
That's brilliantly made.
Well, yes, but it's also still really bad.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of ways.
Right.
Because John Carpenter makes things that are bad.
Right.
But in a brilliant way.
But it's bad like the noodle.
I think Hudson Hawk was the right example.
Yeah, I mean, I love that movie because it's a hot mess, but there's something about it that just speaks to me. Like, I'm not going to defend it.
I'm saying, like, by all means, love it. But on this episode, I will not let it slide that everyone's like, yeah, it had fun moments, without saying it also had fucking terrible ones.
Oh, no, I will give you that the writing is fucking, the writing is a lot more difficult than I remember it being. I was actually
expecting to read this in like 2 minutes because it's for it.
I was too. I did not remember.
When I loaded, when I was like, oh, hardcover, how many pages is this? Why is there so much text on every page? This is a 4-issue miniseries. What else?
Yeah, it didn't. I agree. I totally agree with you. I
wonder what a word
I
count
actually
is.
put it off to reading today because I was like, oh, it won't take me that long.
Yeah.
I was like, they got to find the thing. And it's one of those things that, memory is not necessarily the most reliable sense because I still enjoyed it unapologetic, but there are problems with it. Absolutely.
I have one more moment that I want to point out that I liked, and then I think maybe we should move on to recommendations. Sure. So at one point, the Avengers come back to the Avengers mansion, which has been ruined. Mm-hmm. And Jarvis is like, so I took all of our reserve stores of food and I had them distributed to the people. I hope that was okay. And Captain America's like, that was exactly the right move to do, Jarvis. Thank you. And it made me think for a moment. So they have reserve stores of food and stuff. which means the Avengers have to have contingency plans and all kinds of well, if this happens, then we've got food stores, or we've got batteries and flashlights and all these different things, which means that the Avengers have to have incredibly boring planning meetings that last 4 hours where they're going over all their contingency plans and updating contact
that's what Jarvis
information.
is doing while they're out fighting.
Yeah, right.
But it made me... I just laughed thinking about who actually does that? Who's updating contact information?
The West Coast
sheets?
Avengers.
That's right. U.S. agent, today is Food Stores Day. God damn it.
It's
I could have sworn that was last week, and Spider-Woman's in the background erasing her name and keep writing U.S. agent's name down. No, calendar says it's your time again, U.S. agent. Son of a bitch. All right, I'll
What
be
is he
back.
doing? Cycle counting all the rations to make sure that they haven't
Living lightnings
expired.
off in the background going, I don't think I should be the one to power the generator if something happens. That's totally unfair. And they're like, dude.
Or whenever they update their healthcare information, they change providers because it's actually going to be cheaper, or
Yes.
just all the boring paperwork.
Nothing is funnier than bureaucracy.
Oh my god, they changed
especially
OSHA
when you
standards,
consider-
and now they have to get some ridiculously expensive contractor
I'm just
in to
picturing,
change all the put railings on the transdimensional teleporter.
I'm picturing Captain America going, well, I don't know how to fill out this insurance form because I'm 80, but I'm not should I count years in suspended animation?
Yeah, I'm
not,
supposed to be on Social Security, but I'm actually only 35.
Does he get a
Do I
Social
collect?
Security check? Because he would be. I mean, shit. If he's retired from the military, if they never discharged him, wouldn't he be granted a military pension?
Right. Well, did they issue him a Social Security number after he? I guess the war was happening in it. Depending on when he.
This
fell.
is the part of Marvel. I love.
These are the books that Marvel needs to be putting out.
Yeah, Great Depression.
Oh yeah, duh. Sorry.
So, Marvel
I know more
Universe,
about
Marvel
this than
Comics
I-
presents Marvel Universe, the Social Security Office.
Well, Marvel Universe, has dealt with that conceit before with having damage.
Yeah, there was damage control, but that was specifically about who
Insurance
cleans
adjusting.
up after superheroes. I want the superhero administrative pool.
I'm sure there's a great fan-made fan fiction webcomic about it.
Remind me about this
Seymour.
conversation after we're done recording the show, because I don't want anybody out there in listener land stealing my ideas. But I have something I want to tell you guys.
Okay. On that note, let's move on to recommendations.
Yeah.
Recommendations.
Recommendations?
And I'm
All
Joe
right.
Preti?
So,
So, Joe, what would you like to recommend this week?
I'm going to recommend something Cade recommended a few somethings ago. I have no concept of time. I have no idea when he recommended it. But I'm going to recommend The Sixth Gun by
Colin Bunn and Brian
Bunn.
Hurt.
yeah.
And
It's almost done.
I know Bill Crabtree also works on it. I think he does the colors. But
Yeah, I think it's finishing next month or the month after.
Yep.
It's going to be a long run pick one of these days, guys.
Yeah.
but
these
I'm going
years.
to recommend the first 2 trades of it. But basically, it's just, it's about, the first trade is about a magical revolver that belonged to a very, very bad man, and people are trying to get it back from him.
It bonds to whoever.
Yeah, it bonds to whoever uses it, and they have to be dead for you to get it from them.
Yeah.
But it's cool because it has Western elements, which I like, but it also has supernatural elements, which I think are really cool. And I think those are genres that people are constantly trying to put together. But I think The Sixth Gun does them really well.
It's like Buffy meets Deadwood. Oh, wait, no, that's Prime, Missouri.
But it's a lot of fun. The art is really great, and I've really enjoyed the first trade. I got it on a Humble Bundle, so
Good deal.
Yeah.
It's a really great book.
Cade, what do you got?
Oh, sorry. I was like, wait, what?
What's happening?
Oh my god, they found me. So my pick is one that I believe Chard has brought before. I don't remember.
I
It
don't
was
think
at
I've
least
brought
your
it
top of the
before.
stack a
Yeah.
couple times.
Talked about it a lot on Top of the Stack.
And that is the current run of All New Ghost Rider.
Well, the now defunct,
right.
complete,
Run
all
of
new Ghost Rider.
Okay,
the
the
not
most-
so new anymore Ghost Rider.
This is by Trad Moore.
The most
No.
recent run of Ghost Rider.
It's by Felipe Smith.
Felipe Smith.
But Trad
illustrated by Tradmore for the first 5.
Okay,
and
that's the part that I read.
And then another artist takes over, and then Felipe Smith does the art for the last 2, which is actually fantastic art on that. But yeah, it's this is Robbie Reyes, ghostwriter, and he is a young. I don't know. He grew up in, I think it's LA. It's set somewhere in California, and
LA, I think.
Yeah, and he's like a auto mechanic, and he's raising his brother, who's in a wheelchair, and some stuff happens. And then Spirit of Vengeance, and then pills that turn guys into monsters, and then Spirit of Vengeance, and a sweet car. And it's really good.
That's on fire.
Yeah. Well, as the wheels are on fire, just like a Ghost Rider motorcycle.
Midnight Suns,
bike.
that's what it was
Yeah.
called.
I want them to bring that back.
I have to throw out a weird piece of trivia because I read it the other day on like a top 50 things that nobody things that Deadpool has done, and apparently Ghost Rider's penance stare doesn't work on Wade Wilson because he doesn't believe he's done anything wrong in his life.
That's incredible.
Also, because he can break the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Now, does the touch of man thing burn Deadpool?
I don't know if that's been addressed.
Does he know fear?
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, he seems to have cognizant awareness of danger, but not necessarily fear. But anyway, sorry. All that talk of Ghost Riders made me remember that little tidbit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Brant, what would you like to pitch?
I'm pitching something that nobody's pitched, I don't think. But maybe they have. But I wasn't thinking about this. But I want to make everybody laugh. I want to make everybody cry. I want to pitch Pedro and Me by Judd Winnick.
It has been pitched.
It's been pitched.
Well, fine. I'm pitching something that Toby pitched.
Actually, Joe, didn't you pitch it too?
No.
I think I've pitched it.
But
It's been pitched a couple times.
yeah. But, about Judd Winnick during his time on Real World San Francisco and meeting his friend Pedro Martinez and some of the stuff that happened.
I actually gave this book
During and after.
to my mom for Christmas a year ago.
Yeah, this book always struck me as one that I always try to kind of shop around to folks who have that question about what comics can be about if they're not about superheroes. And I mean, there's clearly lots of different options, but I feel like this is just a really soul-bearing testimonial type book, and it's done by somebody whose reputation is primarily either Barry Ween or superhero stuff, and it's like but it feels really authentic to me because it's his own art, it's his own words, it's his own work.
This is one of the works that got him the job at DC, which he has never left because it's job security.
Right.
Yeah, just to clarify, if anybody's not familiar with this is an autobiographical comic about Judd Winnick and the guy he was roommates with who died of AIDS.
Right. And I also
Spoilers!
That's the whole point of reading the book.
I also think it's really interesting to read now in 2016 or 2015, whatever damn year it is.
God damn, Brant, you're not supposed to let everybody know you're a time traveler.
God damn it.
Because, I mean, some of the stuff he talks about, there's reservation and trepidation about being with this person who has AIDS, and that was a big thing that Judd Winnick went on to do, is AIDS awareness. And now I feel like it's not really a taboo in the same sense and castigated to certain groups of people in the way that it had been in the 80s and the 90s when he first encountered Pedro. So, yeah, lots of different reasons why I think it's a great book, and I want to talk about it, and that's why I wanted to pitch it.
Cool.
And we've also had recent AIDS outbreaks this last month.
Not us in the room. Just in the world at large.
Generally.
Well, Baltimore mainly.
Yeah.
It's been on the news. But
So I have 2 pitches this week.
Cheater!
I have my own pitch, and then I have our Patreon fan pitch from Brian May.
How do we know that you're really pitching for Brian May?
Because I've got his email right here.
You could have sent that to yourself under
I
his
really
name.
couldn't have, because it's actually directly from Patreon, because I sent him a message. So, Brian's pitch is an old classic, by which I mean there's a decent possibility none of you have ever heard of it. Sorry, Brian, you're wrong. I read most of or all of this, and it's really good.
I've heard of it and possibly have read some of it.
He is pitching Anime Club by Casey Green, who is more popularly known for the webcomic Gun Club. Anime Club started as a series of strips from Casey Green's Gun Show. It tells the story of 4 middle school boys united by their love of anime and their hatred of their rival club, the Japanese Animation Club. The comic deals with the compromises young people make when it comes to making friends with similar interests. Sometimes that means you have to deal with assholes. It's split into 6 parts, but part 6 is just an out-of-continuity joke epilogue. And this is one of those webcomics that is... It has a very crude sense of humor, but if it strikes you correctly, it is incredibly hilarious.
I've accidentally read part of this. Yeah. Now that because I don't go read webcomics, but like every once in a while, part of a strip will come up somewhere, and I'll be like, "That's funny," and then I'll find out where it's from, and I'll read part of it, and then I'll forget about it.
I'm still scared to read anything by Brian because that one book disturbed me so greatly.
Oh, Change?
Yeah.
That was a weird
I feel
book.
like that's an aberration.
Yeah, because for a while there, I was pitching nothing but books he had emailed me.
That book was fine. I don't know what's wrong with you guys.
Anyway, for my own pitch, I'm going to pitch a book that Brant has pitched in the past.
Yay!
I am pitching Atomic Robo Volumes 1 through 3. You've heard this pitched many times. It's about an atomic robot. He fights Nazis. He fights giant ants. It's science-y. It's awesome. It's action-packed. It's a good time for all. And it's a webcomic now retroactively, so you can read the whole thing for free.
Some funny. Sweet robot Tesla punk.
Yeah, and Carl Sagan shows up, and they fight Cthulhu.
Yeah.
So much
Well,
fun.
I can think of no one I'd rather fight Cthulhu with.
Conan.
Kind of like Guillermo del Toro to fight him.
Hellboy, maybe.
No,
I can think of a lot of people that I might survive better.
Carl
Would
Sagan
you
has
have
the
as much
power of
fun?
Billions and billions of stars.
He doesn't have the power of billions of billions.
Don't-
He just
don't
said
tell
He has the
Yeah.
knowledge of billions.
Anywho.
Knowledge is power. Boom.
Chard,
There
what
go.
would you like to recommend?
So, it's been a long month here, reading everything I've read. I think I'll clock out at above 300 issues read this month, thanks to Mignola May, a long run, top of the stack every week, and the weekly pitches. So,
And event parking.
I will be keeping it light with a 5-issue all-ages comic from Image Comics called Penny Dora and the Wishing Box, Volume 1, which comes out next week, or the week of the release of this. And it's really fun. Basically, this girl finds... Somebody leaves a box on her doorstep, and she's like, wow, I probably shouldn't mess with it. It seems like it's magic. And then her friend basically steals it from her, and it's a wishing box, so wishes for a lot of stuff that is noticeable and is probably going to get them in trouble. And lots of crazy stuff happens. It's really funny.
Couldn't you just wish to not be in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, it
seems like the kind of vague wish that would get you in more trouble.
Her friend is not the brightest bulb, it's really good. It's kind of like fantasy, all ages. It's written by Michael Stock and Sina Grace, and it's really funny.
Cool.
The art's by Sina Grace. It's cute, and I like it, and it's really fun, and everybody should read it if they like all ages books. So
Nice.
Check it out.
Joe, what would you like to vote for?
Yeah.
Use your words.
I'll vote for Chard's thing. Penny, what was it called?
Penny Dora and the Wishing Box.
Okay, that's what I will vote for.
Okay. Cade?
Atomic Robo.
Brant?
Oh. Do I gamble and leave the decision up to others, or do I kind of help solidify something that I've wanted to do for a while?
Vote for what you want to read.
I know, but that's the problem, is I want to read these books equally.
Oh, okay.
Then vote for Ghost Rider.
I'm going to vote for Ghost Rider. I've really wanted to read it. I haven't read it. I've heard a lot of great things about it, and I know Atomic Robo will endure.
Joe, remind me what you pitched.
It doesn't matter.
Sixth gun.
It doesn't matter what Joe
doesn't matter.
pitches.
I'm going to vote for Brian's pitch. I'm voting for Anime Club.
Oh, jeez. All right, Chard.
So, no book has... There's a lot of room here.
Yeah, Ghost Rider.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I know
right.
we're on kind of a Marvel kick lately, but the book's really good.
That's because compared to DC, they're doing great things.
Well, technically,
there's
JLA
some-
versus Avengers was created by DC.
Yeah.
And there's
feels
some
like
good
it.
stuff in DC. It's just you got to root around for it.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of good DC books, but I mean, it's hard to bring just like a singular trade of the Flash, you know,
and that's-
without
yeah,
like all the
that's- we were
whatever. And Marvel has a lot more like short 12-issue things going on right now, and
Yeah.
that's
We-
kind of helpful.
we had a conversation with somebody on the Facebook page about how it seems that some of us are very dismissive of DC, and I think what we said was it's a matter of just like I liked certain things in the early New 52, but then they got rid of the writers that were doing those and replaced them with writers that were doing things that I abhorred, and it just became too much energy to try and find those.
Yeah, Demon
those
Knights is
things.
my
And
pitch
so,
for next week.
Like
I guess-
it's just easier right now until people start saying, "Hey, they're doing interesting things." I'd be more than happy to go back and check it out the minute I hear that, but I'm not hearing that.
It's
And
too
I'm-
competitive. It's too competitive of an atmosphere right now to waste your time reading bad books.
Yeah,
is
and
my
that's the thing.
personal
It's
opinion.
and then that's exactly the point I wanted to make and didn't get a chance.
And by
to.
bad books, I obviously mean books you're not enjoying. But
yeah, and
it's
that's the thing.
It's
It's
an
like,
opinion anyway.
I
so.
could spend a lot of time dedicated to going through DC and finding the good stuff, or I could just walk over to the Image aisle and pick one of any number of books that I'm almost certain is going to be well written, interesting, and I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing. That's where I'm at with that whole thing. Is like I'm not trying to be unnecessary. Like DC has already driven me away. If I walk into a cave, it doesn't matter if there's jewels in the back of the cave. When the bear comes out and kicks my ass a few times, I'm not going to go back into that cave until I know that bear is gone.
You have to
You're
cast the
just 'cause-
calmness spell
it's just 'cause
and
you're-
then kill the kobold, and the bear will turn into the son of the Baron, and you'll be rewarded with 40 gold pieces.
Well, but
It's
you don't.
just because you're a coward, Joe.
No, I'm really not. I don't. I'm lazy.
Oh, that too.
and I will give 100 internet kudos to whoever can tell me what I just referenced.
That's not real money.
It's all right.
Those are candy
People do
bars.
weird things on the internet for imaginary points, so
I will give you 100 grand candy bar.
that's fair. Those are delicious.
Those are delicious. But yeah,
Crispy
next
rice
time
and
we are rating all new Ghost Rider trades 1 and 2. And,
All new, all
it's
done Ghost Rider.
10 issues, I think. So
About that. 10 or 12.
12. It's 12. You're right. Yeah. And we will see you guys next time. And thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
bye.
You.
Thank you for listening to Me From the Gutters. I hope our recommendations have inspired you to go out and find some new comics you'll enjoy. Join us next time for a discussion of our selected title, but like every week, we encourage you to read all of the recommended books. In the meantime, please leave us an iTunes review. It really does help new listeners find the show. You can also like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. Feel free to email us at contact@viewfromthegutters.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or recommendations you might have. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.